It's good to be with you. I hope you're doing well, and I hope that during these times of uncertainty, you are continuing to turn towards the Lord and remembering the beauty in our salvation, right? That the Lord has provided in such a good way. He has provided through His Son. We have eternal hope. We have a future. We have His blessings. And I hope that you are in return blessing Him, right? That you are dedicating your life to worshiping the Lord and that you are doing your best to be obedient to Him in these times are of utmost importance. We are obedient, right, to our earthly leaders. We are obedient. Children are obedient to our parents. We have so many authority structures, but ultimately for the Christian, they must be based in obedience to the Lord. And so I hope and I pray that you are being obedient and that you are pursuing the Lord in everything that you do. I wanted to share from Psalm 23. This is a special request from Kristen. We understand that everybody's under a lot of distress right now, right? There's sickness, there is job security issues, there's the stress of being home, right? Being home with family is a blessing, but it presents certain challenges for us to work through. And so, no matter what challenge you're going through, I hope that Psalm 23 will be of encouragement to you. This has been a verse throughout Kristen's chemo and throughout the entire cancer process that she has been turning to and trying to memorize for during scans and things like that. And so, I typically don't do special requests, but I think I can break my own rule for Kristen. And it's my pleasure to get to share with you. So Psalm 23, I'm reading from the Christian Standard Bible, reads like this. The Lord is my shepherd. I do not want, or I have what I need. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He renews my life. He leads me along the right paths for His name's sake. Even when I go through the darkest valley, I fear no danger. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord as long as I live. So, this psalm is traditionally, whether it's in church settings or if it's in Hollywood, Kristen, we were talking the other day about this verse, and it's amazing that this is one of the few scriptures that Hollywood knows, right? That this is typically a verse that has either a ritualistic element to it, or we use it in ways that are, I'm afraid or I need help, and so I pull this verse out. And this is the one that I quote. And I think that that is a very fair way to use the verse. But I think perhaps a better understanding is with the idea of God as champion and God as warrior, and I am His people, right? Being aligned with the Lord in that way. This shepherd imagery that it begins with helps support that as well. The Lord is my shepherd. I have what I need or I do not want. The Hebrew seems to be I do not want. The understanding is I don't need anything, right? There's nothing that I am needing that I don't have, right? And when you think of the image of a shepherd, we typically think of the children's books where it's cute and fluffy and this and that, and we quickly forget that in that image, He is the shepherd and I am a sheep. Right? I am not the co-shepherd. I am not his business partner. I am a sheep. I am submitted to the will of the shepherd, and he is the shepherd. I do think it's significant to note, one, it's the covenantal name of God, and two, He is my shepherd, singular. I can only have one shepherd in my life. So no matter what you're doing in life, remember that there is only one shepherd in your life. You can only serve one master, as Jesus says. You can't serve two masters. And so make sure that you understand what it means and what is implied by Jesus is my master. He is the one. He is the shepherd. He's the one who cares for me, guides me. And we get a description of what this is a good shepherd, by the way, because I'm a sheep who does not want or does not need anything, right? I have everything I need. He lets me And I love that in the CSB. He lets me. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He's a good shepherd. Not only does he take you to green pasture, but he has you lie down in the good pasture. A bad shepherd drives his sheep to the point of insanity, but a good shepherd understands not just that the sheep need care, but how to administrate that care, right? That God understands that you need green pasture, you need that rest, and you need to be told to rest in that pasture. There's times where we want to do other things in life in the green pasture, but you need to lie down, and you're given permission to lie down. And coupled with that is he leads me beside quiet waters, right? Water that is easy to drink, water that is pleasant to drink. He renews my life. He leads me along the right paths for his name's sake. Now, note there that we are the sheep, he is the shepherd, and we are taken on these paths for his name's sake, not for our sake. I think too often we get it confused who's good, what it means that God is looking out for my good, but ultimately he's looking out for my good, and what is my good is ultimately what is his good, right? What seems pleasant to me might not be good. What I might need is something different, and that different lines up with what God declares as good. So be careful not to get that confused, not to get your good confused with God's good. God is doing something great right now, even in the midst of COVID-19. And for his name's sake, he is doing good works and good things. There's nothing out of his hand, nothing out of his control, nothing, no suffering, nothing happens to us and it's a waste. Everything has a meticulous purpose. And our good shepherd, who is our God, has that purpose. Even when I go through the darkest valley, this is everybody's favorite part, right? Even though I go through the shadow of the valley of death, it seems to read more like, even though I go through the darkest valley. And we typically put most of the value of this verse on the dark valley, right? We typically, this is where we focus in on my suffering, my hardship, my valley, my. And really, the psalm moves really quickly and says, though I go through that, I don't fear it. Though I go through that, I do not fear. And why do I not fear? Because you are with me. The psalmist here is saying, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of what's coming. Yes, there's hard things in life right now. Yes, life is not easy. Yes, people are sick and dying. Yes, all these things are happening, but I am not afraid. Now, this not afraid is not the idea of, well, I'm not scared. I'm just going to go and do whatever. This is the idea of, I don't place my fear in that thing. I don't fear an economic drop. I don't fear losing my job. I don't fear how this person feels. I fear the Lord. I don't fear because I know who I am with. And when you're with the mighty warrior, our God, you don't fear, right? If you remember the episode of David and Goliath, the Philistines never feared until Goliath was smited. Then they had fear. And the Israelites didn't have any confidence until David wound up, and ultimately the Lord being the ultimate warrior. So I'm not afraid of the valley because I'm afraid of God. I fear God. I revere who he is. And then his rod and his staff, they comfort me. And this reminds me of Moses, as Moses' staff is all the time used in the Torah to symbolize God's leadership, right? Of where God is taking me. But that staff, right? The rod and the staff, the idea there is not just, oh, I'm following it. The shepherd uses the rod and staff to ward off evil, but also to help wrangle the sheep. Sometimes I need God to correct me and bring me back to the fold. And that comforts me because I will not wander into the valleys. I will be with the Almighty God. He won't leave me. He will drag me on if I need to be. Now, the second bit here is really interesting because it shifts to something that seems like a war psalm where it's, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, which is why I think the focus is not to be on how dark the valley was, or how bad my enemies are, but it's to be, you prepare a table, you prepare a banquet. You don't typically make a banquet during wartime unless you are supremely confident you will come out on the other side victorious. And that's what we have here, is God is so victorious that he can make a banquet even while the enemies are watching. And you anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. God, you have poured out on me. You have brought me into your fold, and you've poured out your blessings. Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord as long as I live, which echoes that confidence earlier of I'm with this God. I am with the Lord Almighty. And because I am with him, I fear nothing, because I know that because I'm with the Lord, he pours his blessings out. He pours the riches of his love out on me. And that's, Christian, where we should dwell. We shouldn't dwell in what the news is saying. Don't look for hope in the news. Don't look for hope in a politician. Don't look for hope even in a person, right? Don't look for hope in me. Look for hope in the Lord. Look for hope where hope can be found, and that's in Christ, in the fact that you have been bought by a price. Christ conquered death. The thing you fear, he conquered. And he gave you life and life abundant. So as you go through this time, through this season, through into whatever the unknown new world will be, I want to encourage you that we don't fear what's coming because we fear our God, and he is our good shepherd. We revere him, we trust him, and he leads us. So my prayer for you is that you will remember that he's the shepherd. Remember that he is good, and remember that he is mightier than anything else around us. My prayer for you is that you will constantly, every day, be reminded of the grace that he has poured out on you, and that you will ultimately turn your hope more and more to the Christ who saved you and to the God who knows you. I hope you have a blessed week, and I pray that unless the Lord comes soon, that we will be reunited once again.